Hello and welcome to the THC Show. This is the show where we search for the truth in different aspects of our world here to do with governments and our society, where we try to find some measure of hope because a lot of those truths are not the nicest of things, and we look for ways to change things. So if you're looking for some truth, hope, and change, well, you've come to the right spot. On the show today, we're going to have a 420 session with 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca, as always, and our brother Jerry Martin will be here for the Martin Medical Moment, where we review the different things going on in the fight for medical access for people. And today, as our guest, we're going to have Brother Brad from Beard Brothers here to talk about all things concentrate and how you can make your own shatter and all kinds of different things you can do as you grow your own plants and things like that. So that's what we're going to do on the show today. Strange times indeed, as always, as we enter the 8th week of the COVID shutdown, if you will. Very, very strange times. We had to, due to a family emergency, take the ferry and go up to the northern part of Vancouver Island. And the lack of boats, there was no boats that we saw on the water all the way there and back. There was one time we saw an airplane in the sky, and that was it. And the sense that that's going on all around the world is kind of surreal for sure. It's like the after the apocalypse, and it's very, very strange. There's a lot of speculation about what's going on with the COVID-19 and the shutdowns of the economy, and how different governments have responded, and what might be going on with that, and whether or not we should be doing that, and whether or not there should be maybe release it into the public for a herd immunity is some of the things that people are talking about. There's protests going on about the infringement on people's rights, and certainly there is that. And speculation as to whether it's even real. Well, I believe that it is real, that there are people dying of this at fairly alarming rates, especially if it's not brought under control, that it is more contagious than what the normal flu would be, and certainly the prospects of it having serious health implications, including death, are far more. When you really look at the numbers and crunch what's going on, it is something that we certainly need to be concerned about. And if we do nothing, then a lot of people are going to die unnecessarily. Real big kudos, with respect to the response by our public servants here in British Columbia. I think we're ahead of the rest of the world with respect to the people per million that have been killed by this, and our daily numbers have been down for a long time. 8 weeks ago, they shut down the borders, they shut down travel, they shut down the businesses, they shut down the sports. And I said at that time, well, we'll have to wait a few weeks, and then we'll know if those things don't help much, and if we get what they say we're going to get, which is hundreds and thousands of people hospitalized and dying and overwhelming our healthcare system and all of that, then we're in big trouble. Because those moves, not just the moves made by government in shutting things down, but the moves made by individual citizens in recognizing what they were being told, in keeping away from the common touch areas, in keeping distancing from people, especially staying home if you're not well, especially if you're not well with fever and a dry cough and those sorts of things, and keeping your hands away from your mouth and face and things like that. So all of those things together mean that here in British Columbia we've done a very good job. There's not much to worry about here, but we're going to have to be careful, in the future forever about the potential for viruses and things like that. Now the biggest problem, of course, is how we get things back going, and the damage and the harm that's being done by having all of these things shut down. The money that the government is paying out to cover people's wages, 75% of most people's wages, or the CERB money that's coming to people, or the boosts to the people with disabilities, or the people on welfare, and all of those sorts of things, is going to be a huge financial hit. Many of these businesses are in a lot of trouble. A lot of them were in trouble before the COVID pandemic hit, so that there's going to be a lot of fallout from this. There's going to be a lot of economic fallout. It's going to take us a long time, and we really don't know where it's going to end up yet. But the government really does need to be very conscious of what it is that needs to start happening. We need to get these surgeries happening that people need. The hospitals are not overwhelmed at this time like the government said that they should be. So great. Let's figure out how to get people in there and get the surgeries that they need that might not be emergent, but are still very, very important to people's lives and are emergent as far as they're concerned. So there's a lot of that has to happen. Part of what's wrong here, is the ridiculousness, the lack of reasonableness. You hear about all these stories. A kid's fined $700 and some for shooting a basketball hoop on his own. A mother and her daughters out for a walk in a park get big fine. A family in a parking lot. There's a lot of public servants out there, bothering people and hassling people in ridiculous ways. And I think that there's a lot of fear that our governments are responsible for allowing to be out there that isn't necessary. The word can is very problematic, and the word could can be problematic because, the virus can live on a hard surface for, a couple, 3 days, apparently, under ideal circumstances. And a person could perhaps pick up that virus off that hard surface. And a person could perhaps, introduce it into themselves by putting their fingers in their mouths and things like that. But, those are such drastically low odds that it should not be driving how we treat each other and how we live our lives. We need to be reasonable about these things. It's reasonable to stay a distance away from anybody who appears to be sick. And asymptomatic is another one of those coulds. Asymptomatic people not showing any symptoms can apparently pass on the virus under certain circumstances. But they're not sweating, they're not feverish, they're not coughing and all of those things, which is the main transmitter of the virus. So that we don't need to constantly be afraid of everybody because they might be asymptomatic or we might be asymptomatic. But having said that, we also want to err on the side of caution and be careful about how close we get to people. And the people that are our close friends and families, we want to get really close to them. We want to hug them. We want to kiss them on the cheeks, and we want to, embrace them all the time because they're our family and our friends and all of that. And if we're going to be afraid of people to the point where we lose that part of our humanity, then that's really, really problematic. So we need to stop being so afraid of each other like that. The vast majority of people are not going to make you sick, for sure. Most of your family members are not sick. And if there is indication that they are, well, then take proper precautions. Wash your hands regularly. Keep your hands off your faces. Watch out for people that can deliver that large viral load that could infect you in a way that could make you sick, for sure. So I know it's confusing because I'm confused and I don't have all the answers and I wish I did. There's just so much to this. In fact, there is so much to think about. I feel like a centipede who, upon being asked how it was that I'm able to move all my legs in synchronicity, was then unable to move. You can get stuck, paralyzed by all of this, and what you want to do is just be smart, and we all just want to be a little bit smart. And if we're given the right information by our governments, then it's a little easier to be smart. And I think the government is a little bit negligent in allowing the fear to be mongered the way that it is, and not giving us all the information about how the modeling works and where it is that we have to be concerned about this being contagious, because they've got everybody afraid of everybody and everything. And they're trying to cater to the lowest common denominator because they figure if they just try to let people be smart on their own, then some people just aren't smart and they're going to ruin it for everybody else. So we got to make everybody follow these really strict rules, even though those really strict rules are not all that necessary. And smart people would just understand how to avoid getting that close contact to people that might cause something like that without having to, like, what was another one? A church service that was held where people stayed in their cars, and they're going to charge the preacher with doing. I mean, they're being really stupid about it, more than they should be. And like I say, I'm in favor of erring on the side of caution, and that's the way to go. But now that we've gotten to where we are, they must have better numbers than they're giving us. They must have more understanding about what is and what isn't low risk and high risk. We need to protect the people that are vulnerable. That's the main thing. And that can be done without closing everything down. We need to at least allow the low risk activities to continue back up, especially those where people's businesses are at risk or livelihoods are at risk, and serious mental health and other health issues are at risk. That needs to be as much of a concern now as the other side of things. I agree with their strategies and not just, opening things right back up and let's just go back to the way it was and have, close, big, huge public gatherings. Of course, we can't do that. And of course, we now have to be looking at the other jurisdictions who are opening things back up and seeing what happens with that so that we can be using proper science and be making properly educated decisions about how we do these things. But it certainly is time to do that. And I am glad to hear that that is the talk from our public servants now is how do we open things back up in ways that make sense, that get people back going, get our economy back going, because we really have, our response to this virus or this virus itself or whatever has certainly caused a huge upheaval in our world that is going to take some time to adjust to and get back to, somewhat sense of how things were before in a lot of different ways. And we really need to make sure that we look after the vulnerable. We really need to make sure that we err on the side of kindness and compassion and allow this huge event in our history, in our lives, to be a catalyst for positive things, to come together better as a world, to learn how to look after people. On the downtown east side here, they're now going to house all those people who have needed housing for so long, and there's been so much chatter and talk about, how costly it is to have people living on the streets and how bad it is for those people and all the rest of that, without hardly any action at all. Never a dent put in it. In fact, always the opposite. Despite previous mayor's proclamation of ending homelessness before his term was out, obviously it increased before his term was over, and that continued to be the case until this happened. And now all of a sudden, governments have the impetus and the resources to be able to deal with the homeless people. And I'm really looking forward to how that's going to be made to work. And I'm hoping they're going to use peers in making their decisions and not be implementing decisions on people against their will. There's a lot of different needs, a lot of different individuals, and a lot of individual needs that are happening out there in that world of homelessness here in Vancouver and around the world. And I think that those people need to be in charge of their own decisions. One of the things that's happening is they're getting hotel rooms for people, and they're taking about 20 people a day and introducing them and all the rest of this stuff. And I don't know that all that is necessary. I think if you have identified the people that you want to help out with this, just go and give them a key. Give them an address and give them a key, and let them live their lives and provide some, resources for them while they're there, of course, and run these buildings properly and use this opportunity to get to know these people as individuals and how we can best help them as a society. Because it is far cheaper for us as a society to help these people. Everyone who's struggling with poverty and issues of mental and physical health and all these other things that result in people spiraling down into poverty, living on the streets, being homeless, and having the issues that they do. All of those things, there but for the grace of God go any of us, and we should be compassionate towards those people and helping those people. The point I was trying to make is that helping those people saves our society a whole ton of money and aggravation, and looks after the vulnerable people, those people that have fallen by the wayside. They come from all walks of life. They are our family members from all of our different families across the nation, and most of them are suffering from trauma caused in their childhood that they were never able to unravel as adults, and they spiral down into poverty and substance misuse and all of the other things that come with that. And maybe this event here will allow us to be a more compassionate society towards all of those people. They're also talking about a clean drug supply, and that would be awesome. We've been talking about a clean, safe drug supply for a long time. Those people that are in poverty require certain drugs and certain help to get through their days. That's just all it is. If they aren't in poverty, then they've got a family physician and a family therapist, and they've got access to whatever drugs that might help them. And what drugs help people is an individual thing. I'm not pro or anti either or anything really. I mean, every individual is different, and what helps one might not help me or the others, and it's up to each individual to figure that out for themselves. Laws that prohibit the drugs that people people seem to want that really seem to be against drugs that people could grow for themselves or third world countries could produce, and you can't put patents on, and that seems to be the driver behind most of the prohibitions and over restrictions on drugs that criminalize the people that seek them. Well, all of that is just a vicious cycle that our society's been involved in for a long time, and maybe we could stop that. And maybe if we just allowed people to have access to what it is they think they need for themselves with some proper guidance involved for people that struggle, we could be a much more compassionate society. We would save ourselves a whole lot of money and aggravation. And it'd be a better place to live. And maybe we can get to a better place to live because of this pandemic, instead of the other directions that it can go, which is a lot of strife and depression and domestic abuse and other things that can happen when the economy goes into the shitter. There's a couple of things in the news today. That would be that, an LP, Sundial Growers, has had to recall a whole bunch of their pre-rolled product in 3 different provinces because they mislabeled them. This is the second time this particular company has mislabeled their product. In this case, the labels did not properly indicate the potency of the THC in the pre-rolls by 10 times. So the joints were 10 times more potent than what the labels said they were going to be. Apparently they had no complaints and nobody was injured as a result, but they have recalled the cannabis. But on the other side, they can't really recall the cannabis because of the COVID pandemic, so they're not actually taking anything back from people. So they just recommend that people don't use the product because it's mislabeled and it's 10 times stronger than it should be, which still probably isn't strong enough in the first place. But so there's a little more humor. And, the LPs continue to struggle. The sales have not increased dramatically, as you would think that they would as far as the government stores go. But certainly the use of cannabis is up, even though the government stores, sales aren't up. The use of cannabis is up, and that's what the polls are showing. And of course it would be during a time like this, and also at times where people have figured out that cannabis isn't the evil devil's lettuce that was told to them for so long, and they don't need to worry so much about it. And really, alcohol is a bigger problem, and pharmaceuticals are a way bigger problem. And so there's just a whole new revival of cannabis understanding and acceptance all around the world, as was bound to happen, because the truth eventually does get out and the cream rises to the top. And cannabis is the best natural plant medicine out there for most of what ails us as human beings. And the fact that it's been prohibited for such a long time and lied about is simply a testament to its utility and it's the value that it has, because the only thing that cannabis threatens in any way is the bottom line profits of those groups and individuals who would like to sell you something other than cannabis to solve your issues, whatever they may be, industrial or medicinal or spiritual or whatever. There we are, saved by the 419 bell. So one other associated story with that is that the CIBC has now downgraded their projections on cannabis sales by nearly $1 billion. And I think that's the 4th time they've had to downgrade what their projections are, because the legal market is just not satisfying that which is in demand. And they have not legalized what we asked them to legalize. They've tried to take over and monopolize with inferior product and increased prices, packaged and all the rest of it in ways that is just not attractive to people that understand the plant. So that's what's going to happen when that's your business model. That brings us to 420. So roll them if you got them. Don't share them if you got the virus. And,
and you know why?
How you doing, Glenn?
Good. You know why they're adjusting those predictions? Because of shit tweed.
Shit weed.
I wore the appropriate shirt today.
Yeah, man.
And in Cannabis and COVID-19, that the Israelis are now testing.
And in Lethbridge.
And Lethbridge too. I saw it, the Israelis, yeah. So they're thinking that something in cannabis will help.
Of course, there would be, right? With, the endocannabinoid system and how it.
I would think there would be something in the lungs. That maybe this product is leaving something in our lungs because that's where the virus takes most effect, right? Because you're breathing and stuff like that. So maybe there's leaving something in the lungs that helps to prevent it. I don't know.
There's a few different ways that cannabis is effective in helping with the situation. It certainly is a stress reliever.
Yeah.
Stress is a killer, and stress compromises people's immunity as well. So there's a few different ways, but yeah, there's. So I can bring this over here.
Definitely gets rid of the stress, doesn't it?
That's always been the case, eh?
Oh.
You know that phrase, "I need to smoke a joint."
Yes. Or
everybody
chill out
that.
and smoke a joint.
Chill
calm
out,
down,
man.
smoke a
That
joint.
guy needs to smoke a joint. Right?
That guy needs to, that cop needs to smoke a joint.
Unrelated, but you just reminded me. Standing outside of the herb school one day, the cop pulls up alongside the curb and says something to me out his window, and he says, "You look like you're on weed," or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not remembering it properly because there was something else there, but I shot it back at him that well, you're on weed too. We're all on weed. We have an endocannabinoid system, and whether you like it or not, your body's producing these cannabinoids.
I've seen a meme. That's what they call them, memes. On there that said, the cop comes and says, "You look like you're on weed." Well, your eyes are glazed even at a donut shop, right?
Yeah.
So there's always something out there for that. Oh wow!
So we got something going on here, don't we?
Yeah. We won. We won a gift. You won a gift.
I saw the notification on Facebook there.
This is from Marty Bruyere. Is it?
Bruyere.
Yeah, we're close.
Good old Marty, and the name of the company there is. Daddy-O McGangsters.
Yes. So you want to open it up?
And this is based on work that we've done in the community, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm told. He didn't make it easy to open.
He did. Well, that's good.
I'm fast.
You're, and then that way nobody can steal it, right?
I hadn't even tried when I said that. It just looked tough, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a flashing notification.
Is this mine or is this ours?
But there's one each.
Nice.
There's one each. So
you won this too?
Yes, I won this too, yeah.
Nice.
You just send it to me because, I'm here with you every Tuesday. So there's one for you.
No, there's one for you.
That's for me, all right. And we got the Nitro Cheech and Chong dab pen, I guess.
This is awesome.
There you go. Yeah.
This is awesome.
I even brought some concentrates if we can get it open. And
I want to try this.
You want to try it out?
Yeah.
I got some shatter here. Let's see. Should be an easy. Oh yeah, it's an easy open. Hopefully, it's got some power.
Recycle that. Oh man, do we want to capture the name on that envelope? Now I need my knife. I need my knife. Or you already opened it?
Yeah, it opens very easily from the top. Just open it up. It spreads apart easy.
All right.
Yeah, see? Nice and easy.
You gotta like it when they spread apart easy.
I know, eh? The easier, the better. Definitely. Just say, ah. All right, now, where do we load these things? So let's try opening it up. Oh, there it is.
This is beautiful. It feels really nice.
Wow, right there. So I'll take this piece off the top, and then it looks like it goes in right on top there. And yeah, Cheech and Chong's Nitro. Thank you very much, Marty. Oh, it's the X13. I will when I get home. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I got some shatter in it. Let's see.
Okay, so
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
you say take the top off?
Yes, 5 will do it.
Nice.
Take the top off. Put your shatter right inside there.
All right.
I'm gonna give it a shot. Nope. 1, 2,
That's
3,
a lot
4,
of
5.
shatter you're giving this guy here.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. There we go.
What's the name of the shatter?
This would be a Death Bubba.
Got the whole magnetic thing going on there, eh? That's pretty cool. So just press the button down.
So you got to turn it on. You got to press it 5 times. You'll see the green light flash. Here. You're holding the button with your finger. Right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, yours is red. Oh, I don't think you have enough power, sir. Yours is red. Try it again. Push it 5 times. Did it go green?
No, red.
Red. You need to charge yours. Or, you know what? Right. We could do this. Change the mouthpiece. Take that top off. There you go. Put it on mine.
Put
This
this on.
works, yes.
But I put my shatter in here.
I know, but you can't use yours because yours is not working. So instead of you having my mouthpiece, you can now take a
Oh,
dab
I see. I'm having
with
a
your
dab.
mouthpiece, right?
And there's already a dab in there?
There's already a dab in there, see? And then
And press the button 5
press
times?
the button. No, just hold the button now. There we go. See, thinking outside the box. We got separate mouthpieces. That's perfect. We're not sharing a joint or anything. There you go. And you got it flashing green. It timed out.
And
nice.
I can,
you got it?
oh, yeah, I can taste that.
All right. And here's your mouthpiece back. And there you go. Nice.
All right.
All right. So when you take your home charger up, you know it works.
And to charge it up, this thing here fits onto...
Yeah, so you're just going to take it off and you're going to screw it on to the end of it. And I believe there'll be a part where, let's see, farther down here. Yes, right here. So below the bowl.
I'm below,
By
the, bu- I'm
by
below the button.
By the button.
Above the
pull it.
button. Oh,
There you go.
There
You're
we
going
are.
to screw that on and then
Right,
charge
and
it
that
with
just
your
goes on there like
laptop. Yeah, just screw it on. And then pass it to Neil and he can put it in a USB port and it can charge while you're doing your show.
All right. You have that technology. Well, that's very tasty.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Very tasty.
There we go.
I don't usually smoke much shatter, you know.
No, and it's 420. So thank you very much again, Marty, for pulling our names.
Absolutely.
And Neil happens to win the same, so it was perfect.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and don't forget that shatter. Make sure you put that away somewhere.
And you're still smoking that?
Pardon me?
You're still smoking that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a little more piece I can put in your pipe there.
Sure. No, that's all right. You keep it.
So
Here.
my first experience with these...
Actually, Marty's calling us while we're live here. Oh, I missed it.
He's trying to get on air, was he?
I guess so, maybe. Should we call him back? No, eh?
Well, if he calls back again, we'll answer it, I guess.
All right. He's going to
I
hear
don't know,
that.
I don't know what information he wants to tell
Yeah,
us.
I don't know. He was
Prob-
like, don't you
he's
know
gonna
we're
tell us how
live?
to
Marty,
do all
don't you
things.
know we're live right now?
So my first experience with this type of thing was Butter had hit the scene.
Yes.
Butter King back in the day, and a couple of good friends of mine, Dory Dempster and Carol Gould, have both been guests on my show here, and they both got into the butter at the time. You want to? He's persistent.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
All right.
All right, let's see.
Let's see what he has to
Let's
say.
see.
I'll continue the story in a minute.
Hey.
You guys a little education here on the temps. Those colors are for the temperatures. There's 3 settings. Blue is your lowest, green is your medium, and red is your hot.
Okay.
Oh,
You got it
There we
on
go.
red, just hold it. It will automatically power out after
Unplug that
3 to
thing.
5 seconds, and then it'll just blink and just
Okay, so red
you go.
wasn't
Red
that
was
it was
fine.
dying. Red was fine. It's just that it's the low.
I just told Neil to unplug it. Apparently mine will work fine. Thank you so much, Marty. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
You guys enjoy it?
Yes.
Much love and respect.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Right.
So
There we go.
So Corey and Dory,
Yeah.
Carol and Dory
Yep.
were right into the Butter King butter, and they had the little torch lighter that had been modified, so the little plate came down, and you could put your butter on top of that, and then you'd have a little toker there, and they were having all of that, and I didn't really have much of it at all. I hadn't actually tried it yet. The first time I tried it, there was a party that happened at Greg Williams' place, and Butter King was there. He had a big throne or king's chair that he had set up and a podium there, and I knew this stuff was powerful. I mean, I'd read the specs on it. I understood that this was a real heavy concentrate. I was just a joint smoker. I smoked some hash sometimes, but so I had some stuff to do at the party before I could try it, and I got all that done, and then I stepped up to the podium there, and Butter King gives me too large a hit, for sure, because that's just the way he is.
That's the way he was,
and
yeah.
that sort of knocked me back a little bit. And before I could think what was going on, he said, "Oh, you can't be flying around on just one wing. Now get back over here." And, and so boom, I had another one. Well, that put me back onto the couch like you're sitting on,
Yeah.
and I didn't get off that couch for hours.
Wow, eh?
I sat there my brain was moving, but
Yeah.
not as fast as
Yeah,
usual.
just sitting there like,
And I sort of wanted to move, but I couldn't move, and I didn't move for a long time. So my relationship with and I see shatter and butter as being the same as
Yeah.
far as how I see its effects and what have you. And any time I've tried it, except for a couple, when I think I've asked for like a very small sativa hit, but I don't even hardly ever dab. But because most of the time when I dab, for quite a while after that. I'm just not functioning at the same. I'm not vibrating at the same frequency. You know what I mean?
You know who did that to me? For me, the exact same thing is our next our guest today, Brad. Brad from Beer Brother gave me a really nice dab.
He's our second to next guest.
Yes, second to next guest. He had something taken away by the cops, and they just gave it back to him. So it had been sitting in the cop station for months and months and months and months. He just got this jar back, and he gave me a dab of it. And man, did I ever go and sit on the couch and sat there for about a good half hour, 45 minutes. And then he did it again at Redbeard's Glass. The festival that Redbeard used to have up there.
Right.
So a great Canadian glass blowing. That's what
I'm really looking forward to talking to Brad about some of the experiences that he's had with how it's helped people, because I've seen the concentrates work miracles. In people's
and he's got
lives.
some good concentrates for sure. Yes,
sure he does.
Yeah,
I know that because I was MC of a number of his stuff.
Yeah.
So, CannaMatch.ca, how's it going?
Going good. I got a new sign up this week. It's been slowing down a little bit while everybody's at home, I guess, because they've got somebody right beside them, I guess. I don't know.
Some do and some don't.
Some do and don't, yeah.
I suspect your service is something that's
check out
used quite well by many,
Yeah.
So, CannaMatch.ca to how to find a cannabis-friendly friend.
Yep, dating, meeting, whatever you want.
Meeting, as long as you keep 6 feet away, right?
Yeah. Social distancing meeting, cannabis meeting. Yeah.
Zoom meeting.
You get one of those roach clips, with the antenna ones, so you can pass your friend the joint that way or something, right?
I'm really looking forward to the time when there's some sort of a simple, easy test. You can all buy a little thing, just, boom, 10 minutes later it says, no, you're good. And then we don't have to worry about it.
I think they'll have to do that for if they have a vaccine. Because
I don't like the vaccine idea.
But there's going to be people who want to prove that they don't need the vaccine.
But what about the mutated version of the virus?
What about could be? Isn't that your could be thing?
Well, with viruses,
Prime Ministers
with viruses mutating and making their vaccines obsolete, that's not. No, that's not. That's a good chance that happens. Anyway.
All right.
Thanks you so much, Glenn.
No problem.
I appreciate it
a lot.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for bringing these great little pens here.
Thank you, Marty. This is awesome. We're going to be smoking on...
Daddy-O McGangsta?
Yeah, Daddy-O McGangsta. You got it. Yes. Yeah, and they're out of Saskatchewan, I think, or something like that. Let me see. I can look it up really quick here. He is in... he's a Grand Prairie, Regina. Yeah, so Alberta. He's in Alberta. Grand Prairie, Alberta. So
that's great.
Not too far. Yeah. There's some instructions here. It's not just a... You get it?
It's working good.
Good.
Very nice. Tasty.
All right.
See if I can function for the rest of the show.
I think you will be able to.
I hope so. I don't know.
You got
somebody will say that if I'm not functioning properly for the rest of the show, then it did its job and it's a good product, right? All right. I'll stay here and no, I'm going to move over to here. I'll move over to here for a minute just because I want to do the proper introduction. Because I always want to do the proper introduction for the next segment. Because it's important to understand the background of what's happening here. This is the Martin Medical Moment, and this is where we talk about the fight for medical access to cannabis, which has been going on for a very long time, since Terry Parker Jr. first fought it in the courts and won right to reasonable access, and then the government's response over and over again since then with all these different trips to the courts, and how the fight for access to this amazing medicinal herb has been going on in Canada for a very long time. And so that when Terry won his decision to be able to use it for medical purposes, and then the government had to set up a program to allow that, there was a real need out in the communities for lots of other people that were also wanting to use cannabis to help them, live their lives in ways that made sense. And that happened to result in a whole bunch of storefront dispensaries being set up, even though it was always against the Criminal Code of Canada and unlicensed by the municipalities that they were in. The whole supplying access to cannabis went from basement suites and alleys and around corners to actual storefronts with signs out saying this is a medical cannabis dispensary, come and we'll help you. And so that went on for quite a while, back and forth with the courts and the police and the laws and different things that happened. And it got to the point where there was hundreds of storefront dispensaries, unlicensed and contrary to the criminal code, operating right across Canada. This is back about 2015, 2016. There was a couple hundred in Vancouver alone. And so then Trudeau ran on a campaign from, he didn't even have status at all within Parliament. They weren't even the opposition. They had been relinquished to that status. But he ran on a platform of legalizing cannabis for everybody, and did do that. And so he didn't do it like he said he was going to do it. He said that in doing so, he was going to allow for the proper access to cannabis for medical people, and they wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. And he said that he was going to price it in such a way as to eliminate the underground marketplace, because people would be able to get really good cannabis at much better prices from a reliable storefront. And so who would go to an underground dealer? And he lied about that too. But one of the worst things about his lies and how this legalization is not the legalization that we fought for and we're not done fighting for, is the effect on access for medical patients and people using for medical purposes. Prior to his so-called legalization, there was access through these storefront dispensaries. And those dispensaries have now all pretty much gone by the wayside because of legalization, and not because legalization has allowed for proper access. It's just that they've decided to wipe them out because they unfairly compete with the non-medical government stores. And it's really a horrible situation. And much of the fallout is also with the owners and the people that were working in these places, not just the patients that can't get access. And one of the owners that was caught up in all of this is Jerry Martin. He ran a dispensary in a small town, Whitewood, Saskatchewan. He had been doing that for about 4 years under strict guidelines that were pretty much along the lines, not pretty much, but were along the lines of what Health Canada was demanding with respect to getting access. Doctors had to be on board with all the people that accessed through him, etc., etc. And after 4 years, legalization resulted in him getting a letter from Health Canada telling him to close his store. And that's a completely unreasonable thing to suggest that someone do, especially in a small town where they're servicing most of the population of that small town and many of the people from the surrounding area that have no place to go. You can't deny those people the help that you've been giving them just because Health Canada says you can't, when you've been against the criminal code from the beginning anyway. So that resulted in Jerry continuing and getting arrested and having his properties seized, and now he's been fighting in the courts for the last 3+ years, although he's never had a day in court to really answer to any of these things or ask the questions that need to be asked of these public servants. And so we have him on the show every week to talk about what's going on with that. And really these days there's not much going on because the courts are all shut down. And even if they were open, he'd still be here probably telling us that he's waiting for Crown to give him a date to come and talk about when he can have another date and blah, 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 because he's done that about 40 times trying to get his day in court. And that's enough of an introduction. Now you know what's going on and why we're following this, because people need access to medical cannabis. And Jerry's case is a constitutional challenge and right at the forefront of the battle to allow for people to have storefront access. So, hi, Jerry.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
Good, and yourself?
Doing pretty good. Had a little drive up the coast. I didn't have to isolate for 4 days. My girlfriend's mother-in-law passed away from cancer. We had tried to get up to see her before that happened, but she went pretty quickly, which was good because she was never coming out of there. And there was nothing left for her but laying in a hospital bed in pain. So thank goodness she's gone from that. But she was a wonderful lady, Javon. I knew her, fairly well. I'd gotten to know her over the years, and we had a Zoom memorial.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I missed a couple funerals too.
A Zoom memorial is not too bad, I gotta say.
It's better than.
It's certainly better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, it was pretty good. It was felt very intimate. It was moving. There was about 20 people on the screen there taking part. You could certainly see everyone's facial expressions. Everybody got to have their say that wanted to have it, and it was quite good. And I got to find out things about Javon. I think everybody on the screen got to find out things they didn't know, because you always only know what your version of that person, right? And a person is so many more versions of themselves to so many other people. She was much more musical than I thought that she was. But anyway, so I got to go for a ferry ride and a drive up to the island there, and it was a beautiful, beautiful trip. other than the fact it was wrapped around the sadness of losing, a family member.
Right.
But yeah, so what's new with you?
Still waiting.
You hadn't heard nothing from anybody to
No.
your case. Not expecting to for a while.
No, not until June. I think there's a meeting in June. I think it's gonna be a while yet.
I think, as I've always thought, eventually you're going to get a call. They're going
I
to say,
think probably about the 5-year mark.
yeah, they're going to drop it, eh? Fuckers.
Yeah.
Fuckers. And, I hate to swear like that. Sorry, Annie Barbie, if you're watching. But, seriously, this has been a very horrendous example of public servants out of control. The whole file of cannabis prohibition, the wasted billions of dollars, the ruined lives, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But in your particular case, there's been 3 years of prosecutors.
3.5 now, yeah.
3.5 years of prosecutors billing time.
Yeah.
30, 40 court dates of.
Yeah, over 40.
Over
for
40
sure.
of resetting.
Yeah.
Every time, judge's time, clerk's time, court time, your time.
Yeah, lawyer's time.
Yeah. Oh, man. And
the waiting.
Talk about a victimless crime. I mean, we talk about them as victimless crimes, when people are in jail for marijuana. This far surpasses a victimless crime because you are a victim of this system, big time, but you don't have any victims in your wake. You've got 1,000 people that you helped,
1,000
plus
more
all the ones you don't
victims
even
like
know
that,
that you helped because you were helping all kinds of people, by just helping with giving money. But the actual patients that you helped get access to cannabis, 1,000 people, right?
Yeah, and now they got to spend twice as much for half as much, and
for stuff that's got
stuff they can't get anyways. They can't smell it, can't touch it, can't.
You're stuck in small town Saskatchewan, aren't you? I mean, there's not a lot of weed available.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Like
Dave Stamps out there. Hi, Dave. You're probably watching.
There's a lot
too.
now. There's a lot of people that stepped up and opened up dispensaries and online stores since that time, right?
Well, so that's good, but Dave tells me he's pretty dry.
There's still, really?
Yeah, he says he's been pretty dry for a long time there.
Dave.
Maybe you can introduce him. Maybe he's better now, I don't know. But it isn't easy there for everybody to get cannabis.
The cops are hardcore there too, right?
I mean, when I went through on the Freedom Tours, I remember small towns all the way across Canada where people had pretty much ditchweed that they had paid way too much money for.
Dude, I paid $80 of, what's it? Is that $3.20 an ounce? $80 straight up. That's how you used to have to buy it. It was $80 a quarter straight up.
Yeah.
And they never knew the name of it, and it was not the best.
It was not the
odd
best.
time it'd be all right. The odd time not. Most of the time. And then, I brought in over 50 strains to choose from, all from BC, and, so yeah, kind of put them all out of business. And I lowered the price, changed the entire province's pricing model, right, down to $200,
Which is still
the amount of money I took out of criminal organizations alone would be substantial. They should give me an award, man.
They should, yeah. Not the criminal organization.
No, the city, or the province.
Trudeau
should give me a fucking award.
Well, they absolutely should. Cannabis is an essential commodity at this point. And this is the non-medical. So you can imagine how essential medical is and always has been. With the Cannabis Substitution Project, we give away high-dose edibles and cannabis to people to help them get off of the opioids and other street drugs. I mean, we have that label from the Coastal Health as an essential service. We're frontline providers of an essential commodity. That's not just because of a pandemic. I mean, with our project, we've been going for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's always been an essential commodity for the people on the downtown east side to fight that pandemic, that parallel pandemic of overdose deaths.
Yeah, that and Dana's store there. I was there yesterday again.
Get your drugs tested.
Yeah.
Very important work.
That's for sure.
Very important work that Dana's doing. They shifted, and he's financing it as well. Out of his own pocket. It's not a store that makes money.
Yeah,
you walk in there with drugs.
Just ask.
Yeah, walk in there with drugs that you're not sure of, and they'll test them for you and tell you whether they're going to kill you or not. And it's all just a service because they shut down his dispensary right there, right in the middle of this pandemic. They shut down the dispensary. The other one is still... It's still functioning as far as being able to
You can order online
mail
as
order.
far as I know.
Yeah, you can order online. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago here. And he said that they were going to be figuring out how to have some sort of home delivery or maybe curbside pickup. And that was the next model there. But the one that was right on Hastings there, much closer to that problematic area, they closed that one down. He had to shut it down because of the CSU and the Cannabis Act and all the rest of it. He turned that store into a get your drugs tested location out of his own pocket.
Yeah.
So, and I know they're doing outreach and all sorts of other things as well, and they'll be going to festivals if there are ever any more festivals.
Yeah, I try not to watch the news. I catch up
Depressing.
weekly here.
Well, I could show you pictures of my trip back
Yeah.
on the ferry of the ocean completely empty, and the sky is completely empty.
Yeah.
It's the strangest of things.
It is strange, eh? Everybody's paranoid of everybody.
Yeah.
I know. It's
People come when
fucked
you
right
get
up,
too close
man.
and they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want
And they're all at their private parties. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see them going with that
There's a list
haircuts.
of good things. I've seen a list of good things that's going on.
You like
and,
my
know,
COVID cut, man? That's what I
do.
call it, the COVID
Did
cut.
you do that yourself?
I did, man.
Wow.
You like that?
I think I'm going to have a similar one coming
You gotta
right up.
get one of those things, the
I
Remington.
got the equipment.
No, you don't use those. They
What?
suck, dude. You'll have patches everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Get one of these Remington things. It's curved and you can put it on different settings and it works great, man.
So what's it
Yeah,
like?
it's
What do you
like,
mean? It's like
90
a,
bucks
like a
or something.
razor or something?
Yeah, it's but it's like this small, right? And then it's got a curved blade, so you can fit it in like your palm, right? And you just got the different guards you pop on, and it works perfect, man.
I see.
It took me 2 days to try it.
Well, the good news is
Yeah.
for me, because I was a little concerned, is that I could always just keep cutting more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm
'Cause
going
I
to
know
go
how
back
to
to my
shave.
barbers now.
I don't know how to cut hair, but I do know how to shave.
I just save myself.
So, if I have to, I would just continue shaving.
Yeah.
So if I don't do a good job of getting
Well,
a
that's
haircut,
it.
if I can't make it look good like you,
I've
I'll just,
done it a few times with those other things, and it never comes out good, man. And it's ripping your hair out. And this thing works really good.
I used to get in there and trim a little bit myself, but I don't think it ever looked good. I was married at the time, so I didn't care if I looked good, maybe.
Come on over. I'll give you a haircut in like 3
Oh, no,
minutes.
that's illegal. You have to have your scissors on the end of a hockey stick or something, right? 'Cause
Well, we can disinfect it. It's just a hair tool, right?
Can you imagine the stupid shit that's going on in the world as far as being ridiculous about it, people are not being given enough credit for one thing. I talked about it earlier on off the top of the show here. But it's just how ridiculous these
Really
public...
fucking up the dating scene, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about how much it's fucking things up. It's, we're going to have to deal with all that stuff coming up here. I believe in humanity. I think that we are creative, resilient creatures that adjust to whatever is. And as much as shit tries to knock us down, we keep on figuring it out.
I think I need my passport back, and then I can off to a nice little island.
Oh, you think you can fly somewhere, do you?
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get a boat. We'll get a boat.
A boat. Yeah, that's
get a
weird
boat.
though. There's no boats out there. Right?
Yeah.
It's weird. I
Now,
know
there's
they-
nothing out there, dude. I don't want to get into the conspiracy shit, but they can do a lot of shit with the world shut down, man.
They can, yeah.
They can move a
There's
lot of
a
shit.
lot
They
to
can
be
build a
con-
lot of shit.
You know-
They can do a lot of shit,
They just
Yeah.
released UFO.
Yeah.
Hey,
Your
Ryan,
segment's over, man.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
yours too. Just looking at my clock here. And I was just gonna say, maybe I'm doing a bit of a disservice to not talk a little bit more about the potential for how governments and corporations can now, take advantage. There's a lot of people out there doing that. I'm not
gotta
going to
look
do
up
that
UFOs
today
now.
on the show. We talked about it before on the show. That at least we need to be vigilant about, the possibilities and trying to keep them from being able to get away with that shit. Not sure how we do that. In a lot of cases, we're just observers. But, let's be as vigilant as we can. So, Jerry, you've still got your microdosing thing going on.
Yeah, still
Just
got
quickly plug
microdelics
that.
going. Yeah, it's going well.
Microdelics.ca.
Yep.
All right, people can check that out. Good way to deal with depression, anxiety, addiction,
And a
lots
lot
of
of
different
good
things.
feedback from it.
And in these times, there's a lot of people that are struggling with those, so for sure. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We'll see you again next week.
All right,
in the
for
meantime,
sure.
have
You
as much
still
fun
gotta
as you
come
can.
over and grab those capsules there I got for you.
You got, yeah. I forgot that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, please send me a message when I do that. I need people to keep on top of me sometimes. I have my fields of expertise, and remembering everything all the time isn't always that. But I really appreciate Jerry coming on the show, because it is so important that we continue to hold our government's feet to the fire with respect to what they're doing with the medical access to cannabis, because this whole legalization has left all of those people out in the cold. Legalization for people that are daily users, just on a recreational basis, although recreation is a subset of medicine. It's recreation. It's what we do to prepare ourselves for things and unwind from other things. But even with that, the so-called legalization has been a cruel joke to anybody that's a regular consumer of cannabis. To be buying the cannabis that they're offering at the prices they are charging and the packaging that it's in is a cruel joke to any regular daily users of cannabis. But for those people that need it and use it for medical purposes, it is an absolute nightmare what our government has done. This is cruel and unusual, and it's targeting the weakest people in our society, those that are suffering with major illnesses and debilitations, and in many cases suffering financially as well, because people that are suffering physically in a lot of cases are not able to create the income that they need to look after themselves. So they're really at the mercy of society and the economics that go on around them, and our governments should be looking after those people and making sure that they don't become worse off as a result of all those things than they otherwise would be, and cost us more money than they otherwise would. And with what the government's done in wiping out the medical access through storefronts of cannabis is a real horrible, horrible blow to the most vulnerable in our society, and they should be ashamed of themselves. So I'm really pleased that Jerry comes in and talks to us every week about what's going on with that, and we really need to keep that in the spotlight. Today on the show, for our main guest, we have Brother Brad from Beard Brothers joining us, and Brad has been involved with helping people get medicine for a very long time, at the cutting edge of cannabinoid therapeutics, eliminating the plant matter and the impurities, coming up with the finest of concentrates, which is the best medicine for people, especially people that are immunocompromised and have other issues like that. They want to know that they're smoking the best cannabis when it comes to the concentrates that they're using. And I personally know that Brad has been involved in delivering that and in the forefront of that medical cannabis field for a long time. So without any further ado, as I always like to say, he's with me in studio today. Brad, thank you so much for coming in, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me here, man. Yeah.
How are you holding out these days?
Well, that's a big question, man.
Yeah,
Just even getting over here from the island, the ferries, like everything's shut down, even though lots of people are still traveling. So like there's a few ferries and they're packed, right? So
one every 5 hours now.
I missed the 9 o'clock by 2 cars. So I had to wait till the 1 o'clock.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause they're only taking half loads.
Right? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
Right?
and that doesn't really help with the social distancing because the ferries are full. So if they ran more ferries and kept people separate, it'd actually dilute it a bit and actually be more efficient and more with the social distancing, right?
And I don't think that there is no issue. It's not in our community here in British Columbia. It's in a few care homes. There's a few little outbreaks here and there, but for the most part, it's not in these places. We don't need to be so afraid, but we should be careful about when we're touching common touch areas.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Always, not just for coronavirus, for lots of things.
That's just how you got to be anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many viruses and diseases and things that can affect immune-compromised people, right? So
Right.
it's always about being careful, And so, I mean, it's about respecting everyone's outlook on all this right now, and that's
Yeah.
key, right? So I still do my due diligence and wash my hands and keep my distance,
Keep your hands off your face is another key one, right?
Exactly.
Like
I mean,
if you do get it on your hands, as long as you don't put your hands near your face.
well, what about people
probably
that do the elbow thing, right? And then when they cough, they use their elbow anyway.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like,
right.
I mean,
It's right there on the elbow. Let's just touch elbows,
Right,
and
and
then
then
you cough
cough
in your elbow. A lot of crazy shit. I'm glad it's not that contagious. It is more contagious. You can see by the outbreaks and how they go.
Yeah.
I really wish they would give us really clear modeling of how the infections are happening, because for some reason they're being really vague about
If
that.
we knew the truth, it'd be different, right? There's a lot of things we don't know, and that's the hard part. Everyone has their own conclusion of what's really going on.
A lot of misinformation.
Yeah, it is misinformation, right? That's what the government does best, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's been
And then people don't trust the government, and they
Yeah.
don't trust mainstream media, so then
Right.
they go to alternative media, and there's a lot of fake news out there, and so it's really, really hard to navigate for sure in this one. But it's common sense.
It is.
And that's what I say. It's going to be common sense for everybody from now on. We're all
Yeah.
going to be much more educated about the potential of viruses, and we're
Yeah.
going to be not putting our fingers in our mouths so much, and being a little more careful about that.
Exactly. And
But I didn't bring you here to talk about the coronavirus. You've been involved in concentrates with Beard Brothers for a long time. Let's go back before that. Where are you from originally?
From the Sunshine Coast originally, yep.
Nice. A good place to be from.
Beautiful place. Yeah, I miss it all the time. I go back and visit quite often. You know,
Right.
it's just a beautiful small town.
So you went to school there?
Yeah, went to school, a little 200 person high school, like really
Nice.
quaint and tight, you know. Yeah.
And when were you introduced to cannabis?
It's a little blurry, but I think grade 8 would be, when it started to happen. I mean, my sister tried to like pin me down a few times, and it's like, you gotta smoke more weed. I'm a redhead, right? I'm full of energy, right? I remember that vaguely, but it was grade 8, and that's when I started to really open my eyes, in a bigger way,
Right.
with plant medicines. That really changed my perspective on the world and really helped me get through school, in lots of ways. I think it was super beneficial, and it kind of built a lot of strong relationships, and our small town was built on cannabis, even though a lot of people didn't know, right? There's, fishing and logging, but a lot of that was dried up. So most people were growing weed or smoking weed. So, it was cool to kind of...
Oh, it drives the economies in small towns for sure.
It did, 100%, yeah.
Yeah. So you've had an involvement with cannabis for a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
I imagine you liked your hashes and your concentrates back in those days too.
Oh yeah, I remember, making honey oil and all that stuff, the black tar oil that we all thought was the best, in those times, and smearing it was just dark and green, we still made some nice golden stuff, but yeah.
Did you grow for yourself at all?
Oh yeah, I hiked the hills.
Nice.
Yeah, I was a renegade. I built many of hidden outdoor spots, right? We'd spend like most the off season digging trenches and digging reservoirs, right? And finding spots where no one would come and try to steal our shit, or the cops wouldn't come bug us. Oh yeah, those are some of the best memories I had. Toting big bales of soil up the hill, right? Like,
Nice, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great.
So many stories of people that were those kind of guerrilla growers and stuff.
Yeah, but I grew up. My mom was she introduced me to cannabis, and it was a big part of her life. So I'm second generation, right? So there was always big plants in our backyard, right? My mom always had her hippie friends over, and they're all like dancing around the backyard, smoking cannabis, right? So great memories, and it was always second nature to me. Like cannabis was like the norm, and it was totally fine because everything around that plant was positive to me. Everyone in the community was benefiting from it, and it felt great because you're either getting wasted or you're smoking cannabis and you're feeling good, right? And it's a whole, so.
So you're growing cannabis, so you're probably interested in concentrates or extraction.
Yeah.
Making hashes and stuff like that.
For sure, yeah.
When did you start doing that?
Probably when I was about 15.
Is that right? Eh?
Yeah.
That's early on.
Yeah, totally.
What would you use for extraction? Butane, or would you use water?
We're
or-
using alcohol and water. Yeah,
Like-
and isopropanol.
And not both those things together. Those are two different ways of
two
extracting.
different yep, for sure.
sure.
Water is more for like making edibles and other things like that. You'd boil and stuff like that. And so that was basically our main way. We didn't really make a lot of like bubble hash, and like it wasn't the same back then, right? Like the tools you had weren't the same. So we'd have finger hash, right, and stuff like that, right? So we call that our bubble hash, and we'd screen that. So a lot of our bubble hash was just like from working in our gardens, and like we had some screens then too we were using, right? So
And so you ended up making shatter.
Yep.
And how did that come about? And tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a bit of a wild story. I landed myself on the island with my wife now, Victoria. I came over from the Sunshine Coast, and we decided we were going to start a family. And I was kind of a bit on a more of a spiritual journey then. I was doing yoga and yoga training and stuff, and I kind of took a little sabbatical from cannabis to a degree. And she's like, nope. And she kind of grabbed me by the scruff and drove me back in. And, people found out I had like, a good idea of how to do proper extracts. And that was when kind of the market kind of was at a low. So people were kind of scrambling, what do we do? And shatter was really popular time in butters and stuff. So people were like, hey, you know what you're doing with this? I'm like, yeah, sure, for sure, right? And I was one of those guys that started open blasting, like making shatter unsafely, completely, right? Not knowing what was
Which
the best.
you don't recommend at this point.
Never, nope. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way and I had a close call, right? That was completely unsafe and really bad for my health, but in the end I was still purging the extracts properly, which is key. But then we got wind of the closed loop system, the CLS, right? And we were, one of the few crews out here in Canada that started using those prevalently and like more in the open with it. And that was great. Safe way to use it. We could use clean.
That's fairly expensive equipment.
Yeah, it's probably not as bad now, but when you look at like, when you're open blasting and doing stuff like that, your butane is evaporating in the air. So when you have a CLS system, you could recover your butane and you're actually refining it every time, right? And that way you could refine any butane you were going to use because you don't know if there's any contaminants coming with it, right? So that was the best part about a closed loop. We ran a bunch of cans through the system, and after we have just evaporated the butane, there was a sludge left in the bottom, right? And that was nasty, right? So you think we're eradicating that from being in the concentrates, right? So that was the best part, right? The fact that we could save on the butane, we're doing it safe, we're inhaling butane, and we're getting a better product.
Nice.
And that came along with having proper ovens, right? So if you purged your shatters good, you'd come out with like a pharmaceutical grade. The parts per million, most of our extracts were under 100 parts per million. That's considered pharmaceutical at that point. It's basically not there, right?
Right.
So
for the average person, how would you recommend they go about extracting off of their cannabis? Who doesn't have the expensive equipment? Is there safe ways to do it?
Yeah, there is safe ways. I mean, you're going to have to spend some money or you're going to have to figure a way out because, everything kind of costs something, right? And if you do it properly, you want to kind of make that investment, right? So if you're going to make rosin, for instance, you still need a press or, a lot of guys use the hair straighteners and stuff like that, but you want a proper press because then you can have your temperatures dialed in, you're actually going to get a nice press and you're actually going to get a better product that's going to be better for you to consume it, right?
So what does a press go for typically?
Anywhere from $1,000 and up, right? Depending.
So if you don't have $1,000, you can use a hair straightener.
You can, yeah, that's fine. That works.
A lot of people, use that.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, totally.
And certainly rosin is a chemical-free way of extracting cannabis. It's just heat.
Hair straightener, some parchment paper. You do a fold, stick your butt in there, and squeeze it.
There you go.
And then boom, you open up the parchment, you got your extract around the edge.
Other than maybe burning your finger a little bit on the hair straightener, you're not going to blow yourself up.
When you work with weed, typically you burn yourself. We all know that. I mean, I have a hot knife story, man. I remember I got a hot knife stuck to my lip when I was a kid.
I did that too. Not stuck to my lip, but I certainly burned myself.
Yeah, we were camping. We didn't have anything. We were wasted, drunk, and it was a...
I'll tell you, when I was 19 years old, I'd been driving a Volkswagen Beetle, but I was living in a place that was owned by a car salesman and renting it out. And one day he convinced me to come down to the showroom because I was putting a bunch of money into my Volkswagen Beetle. I'd put a new motor in there, a new muffler system, and stereo and all this stuff. And just working on the side and selling a bit of weed, and that's what I was doing. I had carpentry skills. I was 19 years old. And he convinced me to buy a brand new General Motors van, order it from the factory and all the rest. He said, if you can afford $250 a month, which is what basically I've been putting in on average to this Beetle, he said, you can drive whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I test drove the Corvette and the Cordoba and the high-end Chevy van. And, with the carpentry stuff going on, the van was ideal. I also had a friend who had one, and he liked to go camping, so that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I ordered top-of-the-line GMC van to drive around in. And that's what I had for my first vehicle. Why was I telling you about
hot knife something?
So I was hot knifing back in those days, and I hot knifed everything, not just hash. We'd hot knife weed, tie stick, whatever, little
roaches,
piece of bud,
man,
roaches, everything. We'd take a Coke bottle and put a nail in it, and then shake it, and it would pop the bottom off it, and then you just file it down a little bit, and that was the toker that we would use.
Yep.
I had a log, a cutting from a tree in between the two seats in the van, and that's what I'd hot knife on. I'd pull up to a red light, I'd have the torch quickly click on the torch, heat the knives. I could work the knives with one hand, tap the knife down, like pick up the whatever on the log and bring it under the toker, all in the length of a red light.
Yeah. The classic stoner driver, man, like rolling a joint while you're driving.
Oh,
Took it to the next level, man. I can Clearly say I've never done a hot knife and drive it. You're the man.
My log had all these burn marks, like thousands of burn marks by the time I'd had it
Dude,
for a
man,
few
did you
years.
keep the log? That's
No, that was so
memorabilia,
long
man.
ago, you know. But yeah, I would have loved to have kept it for now. That would be a great museum
Nostalgia,
piece for
right?
sure.
For sure, man.
Yeah, and I hot knifed a lot of tinfoil, which
Yeah.
probably explains a lot to those of you who understand the connection between tinfoil and Alzheimer's.
Yeah. But when you smoke a lot of cannabis, you only ever get half timers, so I hear.
There you go.
My mom would always say that. Yeah.
We'd fold up, little bits of bud in tinfoil and
Yep. Totally.
that
We
way.
all did that, man. Pop cans, whatever.
cannot
right?
be healthy.
Nope. Totally. So it in this day and age, it's great because most apparatuses are as clean as you can get.
They are.
So.
And that's kind of where I wanted to get to with you is because what you're describing is a cleaner and cleaner way of making that cannabis. And at the same time that you're making that, you're probably having experiences with people who are appreciating your project and the product that you're producing.
For sure.
I had the experience of taking butter across Canada on the Freedom Tours 3 years in a row and inline skating across Canada. Butter King would give me butter to not to sell, but to help people understand.
Yeah.
And so I've watched people stand up from their wheelchairs, stop the tremors, all those things. Tell me a little bit about some of your experiences along those lines.
Yeah, that's key. That is kind of like, me not being a big THC guy as I got older because I had a near-death experience and it kind of switched my brain and created some PTSD. So actually THC would enhance it to some degree for me. So, but the experiences I had with that, with Beard Brothers and stuff, is we've seen lots of amazing people kind of like their life would turn around, right? And especially from good concentrates, that's what it's about for me.
Right.
Making a difference in everyone's life as best I can. And
That's what I figured about you.
And that's so important. Whenever we made extracts, I made sure I felt good because I knew that those extracts were going to touch hundreds of thousands of people's lives and change it, and that made me feel good every single day and made it all worth it, So
how do you feel about prohibition?
Oh man, I mean, I miss how it was, when the events were big and we're all congregating, and we're pushing for our rights heavily and the underground scene was strong and I miss those days, and that's what it's all about because I think for me, cannabis is about the connection.
But you were risking,
everything for sure. I literally, it was never about, I never really thought about it like that though. As weird as it was, is I always think I'm doing what's good. I'm not really worried about the consequences because I feel right about this.
Did you ever have to suffer any of those consequences? Any run-ins with the...
Yeah, I got about 3 years ago. I got nabbed on my way to my dispensary with my mom in the car, and I got harassed, and it was a pretty traumatic experience, especially for my mom because she was basically telling me that she was terminal in that car at the same time, and we got pulled over.
Wow.
I told the cop that we had a medical license in the car, and he's like, no, there's more than 150 grams in here. So he already was hot to trot on me because he ran my license plate and said cannabis on it, even though I've never been charged. Obviously, to being a dispensary owner, I was targeted like that, right?
Yeah.
So they got me, and I'd Kurt Tusaw as my lawyer, and we got off with it all. And, I always have that memory.
You had your day in court in front of the
had
judge.
my day in court with, my mom there, and, we got arrested together, and we went to the cells together, and that's a memory I always have. God rest her soul, because she's not with us now anymore.
Sorry, but yeah.
But that's a memory
Got
that
arrested with your mom for weed.
Right?
Good job.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And got off.
I got off.
I
got an absolute discharge in the end. Kurt Tusaw got the language I wanted in that case. Basically it was I wasn't trafficking, it was my mom's meds and all that kind of stuff, right? And I got the language in there that's saying I was transporting my mom's meds, and that's the medical. Obviously,
Nice.
We all knew I was helping medical patients, but that was the reason we're doing it and why I would take that risk because I knew I was delivering stuff to my dispensary for patients, right? So I never looked at it like a risk, and it caught up, and luckily, Kurt...
You had a taste of it, though. I mean,
I did. I was
to...
Kurt Tusaw's second to last case.
I see.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll go back now and become a lawyer again.
Kurt,
now that he's not...
maybe because his other job's not going to pan out. We don't know how it's all going to go, right?
I'd like to talk to Kirk, actually. I'd like to find out, his side of things and see if he thinks he made a difference,
Well, I
in a
think-
positive way where he was there.
We don't know everyone's decision making, right?
We
And like
don't.
I try not to pass judgment on anyone on any decisions they make, because as long as it comes from a place of trying to make change, it's still gonna have some good or some effect, right?
I know money can taint people's.
it can. It can.
But good people are usually still good people, and they can
Yeah.
find ways to justify it. I'd like to hear his way of
100%.
justifying.
I have nothing wrong with Kurt Tusaw.
And I leave the judging to the gods.
Yeah, he was
you know?
nothing but good to me and my family.
For sure.
So I have no bad things to say about him, right? So, yeah.
We had bad things to say about the government system.
That's
you
it.
know?
That's it.
And,
We're all. Yeah.
And we're concerned about anybody that would promote that system or encourage a system that would continue to criminalize our friends.
100%.
And so there was that side of it, but we all also have to understand, I'm sure all reasonable activists and cannabis people understand that we need people on all sides of each fence.
Yep.
And, like I say, I'd be interested to talk to Kirk and see what he feels he was able to accomplish, on that side of things. And,
Well, we
and
need,
I don't know until I talk to
we
him.
need good people everywhere, right? So as long as everyone's heart's in the right spot, that's how we make change. We need to be lobbying the government. We need people in different facets of it, because we know the government's going to be involved one way or another, right? We can't get away with that. So
I don't think Kirk would have been advocating for encouraging the government to shut down the competition.
no, he wouldn't. No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
know.
either.
I'll
Yeah.
ask him, and he can tell me in person. I hope he'll do that. Maybe when this is over, he'll come on the show.
Yeah, for sure. He probably would. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we go back a long way. Kirk was my campaign manager back, I think it was 2005 for the Marijuana Party of British Columbia here.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot. He has been a huge part of a number of very important steps along the way to trying to get our rights, which we don't have yet.
No, we're far away from truly having our rights, and I think that, with legalization at hand and like what it's done, and it's been a shit show, and it's far from good, but it's something that we can work with, and that's what I try to remember, right? I think if we all really truly band together again in the craft medical movement and really band together, we could push back harder than ever and really get the regulations and the change we really need. But we can't do that sitting on our fucking couch complaining about how it's not good enough. And that is my one fucking thing. I've seen a lot of people turn their backs with legalization, and it gets me emotional, because I think it's a bigger fight than that. We have to fucking fight harder.
If that's what people are doing, it's because that's what the government intended. They want to shut people down from speaking out about this. They wanted to give them enough that they wouldn't fight anymore.
Yeah.
That's it. For the average smoker, legalization's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
You can have weed on you. Cop's not going to be able to bust you for that. You don't have to have bought it from a government store. You could have grown it yourself, or people could have gifted it to you. So there's no more of that. I mean, people aren't worried about that.
That's a positive. Yeah.
That's a big positive. The media has been on our side for quite a while. For the last most of this decade, most of the members of the media are kind of on our side and understanding, the push for legalization. And so that this struggle is not over, as you're saying, by far yet. But I think that we have made great strides in what's out there. The understanding of cannabis as a medicine, those sorts of things. You're a big help on the concentrate side, because concentrates have not been accepted so far in the government stores.
Not yet. Nope.
And we need that. And and the government looks at that, I'm sure, and not just the government, but those people that are greedy, that are in like a lot of the people that are running these LPs are greedy fucking businessmen.
That's all it is.
And that's all it is to them. And they're just drooling over the idea of how much money they can charge for cannabis when you concentrate it into a little bit of shatter, and you can get $200 for this little.
Especially because most of the weed's garbage.
Yeah,
so if they concentrate, it might get a little bit better.
That's right. They can, eliminate the bad part of it and get, and then pens come into, popularity and all the rest of it, and then they got, this thing's magnetic. I like this pen, by the way. It's very good. It's quite magnetic.
So I mean,
they're just going, aha, we're going to make a ton of money,
But they think so. But they think so because they don't understand the true connection with the plant, right? You can't just go out and concentrate and not understand it. Like, you got to know your genetics. You know, you can make concentrates from shit weed, but like you make better concentrates from really good weed.
Right.
And that was like why Beer Bros is what it was, because we always worked with the best farms, right? We always made sure we were sourcing the best weed, and we connected with each and every farmer on a personal level, because that's the importance of it, right? And it's so flawed right now that like even legal storefronts can't personally build relationships with farms, that they go to liquor boards and stuff. So that's going to change. I know it will. And that's what it's all about, because this whole entire movement is a big part of it's about the medical, but about connection. It's about connection.
You've been involved with testing, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So when you're testing concentrates, like you say, when you're using a superior product and to an inferior product, what comes out in concentrates sometimes? I mean, does the pesticides and fertilizers, do they get concentrated into that as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things will and certain things won't dilute as easy with the cannabinoids, but a lot of it will attach to the heads of the plant too, right?
So you want to be starting with pretty organic weed
that's
not been tainted with a whole bunch of toxic pesticides and things to start with.
Yeah.
And if the government's got a whole bunch of this weed kicking around that they can't sell, that's now too old and not cured, and they're going to turn that into concentrates and put them into pens and stuff for people, you would have some issues with the quality of that concentrate.
You could. I mean, if you knew your extraction process, you could take all that out, you know, with the distillates and stuff and separations. You can, with proper filtering, you can take.
So they could actually come up with
if they had really good lab techs, you could.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, you could separate it when you get down on that level.
Not that you're going to be buying it off them anyway, because their prices are going to be way too high, even if it is, properly cleaned.
Exactly, and
so
the whole 10 milligram thing it's just so flawed, right? Like,
they must hate me talking about the pricing. I mean, I know even my grower friends hate me talking about the pricing, and I'm not completely right about it, because there is a lot more into growing craft cannabis than there is in growing many of the other crops.
Being a grower myself, like you
know there's some extra cost. The lighting is expensive if you're not outdoors. The trimming and
not just slapping a room together and it just grows itself, right? Like,
I mean, you can grow an outdoor crop fairly easily, and I think that you should be able to do that and bring it to market at $10 a pound.
Yeah, $10, nice. I think.
Well, there's nothing else in the grocery store that's more than $10 a pound.
Exactly. I think if everyone comes together, there'll always be that echelon where we got to have the affordable stuff that lower income and patients and stuff can access, right?
And there'll always be a market for the other side.
You got to have a choice.
Yeah,
I think that's all we really want is a choice. We don't want to be told we have to buy it for this and we can't afford it. Then you're like, well, that defeats the purpose. I'm going to grow my 4 plants, but I can't. That's going to last me how long? A day? For some patients, right? Like, so I think that like we got a lot of work to do, and I really think that the medical and the craft coincide and they work together. The craft wouldn't have the leniency that we have if it wasn't for the medical fight, and vice versa. All the craft people got involved with fighting for medical too, because it's all hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see that, especially having co-ops and stuff where patients' products can be grown for a lot cheaper, right? And you don't have it. 2 maximum patients on your grow they have now, or 4 or whatever, right? You could have like 100 and everyone has a small one, and they can all have their stuff and they can access it for cheap, or we grow it for them. And then secondly, any excess we have, we can sell to the legal market wherever we want, as long as it tests and pass the bill. You're describing exactly what we're attempting to accomplish with the Serious Hope Society and the Cannabis Substitution Project. We want to grow 4 plants per member in a big facility. Perfect.
And we don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to do that.
I don't see why not either.
I know that it's contrary to the Cannabis Act, but the Cannabis Act is still in serious violation of our rights and our freedoms.
100%.
The government's role is there as public servants.
Yeah.
They are to facilitate business. They are to encourage commerce between people. Where there's problems that arise, then they're there to put on proper regulations to mitigate the potential harms and those sorts of things. But their role is not to stifle business and commerce and over-regulate something just to put it out of business because they don't like it or whatever. I mean, but out of Bill Blair's mouth himself, he says that they're not trying to encourage people to use cannabis. They don't want to make it a mainstream thing. They're not trying to profit off it. They're just doing this because they basically have to.
Well, they're doing it because they know that people were pushing back. They had to give us something. And we all know plant medicine has always been pushed back. 100 years ago, people are disappearing because they work with plant medicine, right? So look at this revolution that's happening right now. We're pushing plant medicine hard. Legalization is going globally right now. Mushrooms and stuff are on the rise because it's treating PTSD and all these other amazing things, right?
Yeah.
So and then all of a sudden the world gets shut down. I think there's a little bit of a intertwine there. I think that there's, this is bigger than we know. I mean, we all have theories. I'm not going to go on my personal theory on it, but I know that we need change. And this is an opportunity for us all to change. Yeah. We sit back and reflect on our lives, reconnect with our family members, our home, our gardens. That is important right now. If we all kind of band together in this time, like I see, like it's happening. It's starting to shift. Yeah. We can really make an impact on the world, and the world will never be the same after what we're going through right now.
You're absolutely. Change like this is nothing but opportunity on all sides.
Both sides,
yeah. But yeah, for sure, there's much that can come out of this in a very positive way if we do it right, for sure.
Exactly.
But there's a lot that we've lost. There were protests going on all around the world about a number of different things, many of them intertwined and connected about, people's rights and the oppressive governments and things like that, and corporate influence on our lives. And all of that, was just shut right down. All of a sudden, there was no more pipeline protests.
Look at all that was happening, and then boom, right? Yeah. It was happening
in China as well,
right?
A lot of protests.
And now they're blaming China and Asia for all this stuff, right? And it's to put that negativity because there's a big uprising going on there. So I think we take this opportunity to understand how we can truly do the next best thing in our daily life right now.
We need to reinvent ourselves.
It's
That's
true.
it.
Look at
legalization came in. It wasn't at all what we had asked for. They didn't legalize anything that we do at 420, for example.
No, right? Yeah.
Our motto this year at 420 was going to be legalize this.
Yeah.
Everything you see here going on, all these vendors, legalize this.
Yeah, that's that.
And they didn't legalize any of that.
Yeah.
So that's the way it is. Yeah. And now, like we were saying, it's okay now for the casual smoker. Even the daily smoker that's got a good supply that isn't a government supply. They're hooked up. They don't have to worry too much about it. The person that's supplying them has to worry a little bit because increased penalties and increased enforcement. We got the CSU unit running around and that sort of thing. So the growers and the sellers are in a little bit more danger than they were before legalization.
Yeah, 100%.
But they're just a few that satisfy the many.
Yeah.
The many are pretty much satisfied.
Yeah.
They got their underground hookup. They can be out in public smoking weed. They don't have to worry too much about much. So, but the fight's not over. We need medical access.
Yeah.
Then the medical people are still there to fight, but they're a small percentage too.
Yeah.
The big mass of everybody are just the daily smokers
that's why
that like smoking a joint to unwind after work or to prepare for something or whatever.
Yeah.
But the small minorities are the people that are sick and suffering and need it for medical purposes.
Yeah.
And the other small minority of the people that are growing and wanting to help those people get the access, those two small groups are in trouble here with legalization.
Yeah.
But the majority of people aren't. We need the majority of people that aren't in trouble to recognize that they got to support these other small groups that are in trouble. The medical users need their support, and the growers and the sellers need their support. We still need to turn this around. You still need to be able to walk into a store and buy good quality name brand cannabis at affordable prices in gas stations, grocery stores, everywhere where you can buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
You should be able to buy cannabis.
100%.
So, when we get there, then we got some legalization going on.
That's the truth, and that's what legalization did. It kind of calmed the people down, even though it did, but enough of the masses where people didn't feel like, we need to stand behind these guys, we need to fight, right? They're like, oh yeah, I can get my weed, I'm happy.
What do you need to have a protest for? It's legal.
Right?
We get that all the time.
Right?
Well, we need to have a protest because it's not legal for the medical people, and it's not legal for our brothers and sisters that are growing and supplying.
Yeah.
And that's who needs to be legal in all this.
100%.
Anybody that can grow good quality cannabis should be able to have their product in the local grocery store if they make a deal with that grocery store owner.
100%.
There's a way to do just reasonable testing on stuff that comes in.
It should have been this way it was with our storefronts and our market garden freaking pop-up protests events and just with some added regulation. So then that
little bit of regulation.
So then we knew that at the end of the day, like, people are getting clean product. And I always say that we still deal with it every day. There's a bunch of trash out there that people are consuming and not being aware of what they're smoking, right? So I like that needs to end. You know, people that want to get into our medical system, whatever we're going to do together to make it better, which I know is going to happen, we need to have that regulation part of it. We need to make sure all the product is getting to patient and affordably, right?
The shit would go away if there was really good affordable cannabis out there.
It would.
You know, there'd be no reason for people to go buy the shit weed anymore.
Yeah.
But now you never know what you're getting. It's still like prohibition.
And people,
you're still meeting somebody in a parking lot and, you know, swapping bags from 6 feet away.
Exactly.
You know, whatever they're doing.
100%. Mom and pops will still thrive in those price points and helping people, because there's always your higher grade and there's always a little lower grade that you can do for everyone can afford to do that. Everyone can pay it forward. Everyone can still keep their business thriving and putting it back in the community. And that's what, you know.
We never had a problem with cannabis.
No.
There was never large amounts of people suffering from anything debilitating to do with cannabis.
Yeah.
There was some issues with some swaggy cannabis and some people that had compromised immune systems, and that was about it.
Yeah.
For the rest of it, I mean, if you're smoking shitty weed, it's just not going to hurt you. You know, it's just not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You want to smoke better weed, you know it when you get it, and that's all great.
Well,
but the shitty weed really doesn't hurt anybody in any significant way.
100%. I agree.
But the ones that have some immunity problems,
Yeah.
have some illnesses, they have to be a little more careful. But they know who they are.
Yeah,
you know.
100%.
And if there's stores that cater to them, that are medical stores that you can learn to trust, then that's where they're going to go. And anybody that needs to worry about it, they'll be looked after. You don't need a bunch of ridiculous regulations to protect people from the boogeyman that does not exist.
Yeah, it's all
You know?
fear. It's all fear. It's all way to control. It's
Regulations are infringements on your rights every single time. It's somebody telling you you can't do something you want to do.
Yeah.
And so that if they're going to infringe on your right, there better be a justification for that.
Totally.
So if what you're going to do has the potential to hurt either yourself or somebody else or society, then there's a reason for public servants to be involved and put in some sort of a regulation that would adjust for that.
Yep.
Not that hard to do.
Yep.
But regulations need to be as minimally intrusive in people's lives as possible. That is the test for it. And the other side of it is when you make regulations to the point where they get kind of ridiculous, you're going to get an underground market.
You are.
You're going to get another supply that's going to come in and undercut. And that supply won't have any of those ridiculous regulations because they don't give a shit about any of that kind of stuff. They're just there to make money in an underground, unregulated market.
It's why not many people transition to the micro craft side of it. It's because it's way too expensive, it's too crazy, and it's too much regulation involved. So a lot of people that would say, hey, if this was easier, we would do it. We would come over, we would work out a medical side of it, plus our recreational side. We'd keep doing what we do. But
Exactly.
It's too crazy. They did that on purpose. It was put that way to make it almost impossible.
Your key phrase was keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
All they needed to do was come in, see what people are doing. Okay, there's a supply, there's a demand, this is how it's being produced. If there's any issues to how it's being produced that are real issues, then okay, you could make a suggestion, maybe even a regulation.
Yeah.
But no, they're not letting people do what they were doing. They're going to rewrite the whole fucking system. You know, now you have to irradiate it. Yeah. Now you got to use all these chemicals if you're not going to irradiate it. Now you have to package it like this. Now you have to have these 4 or 5 tax price point added onto there. Now your price is so high, nobody's buying your product.
By the time it gets to consumer.
Nobody's going to buy your product. They are pricing their shitty weed at ridiculous prices. $12, $13, $14 a gram.
Yeah.
They've got some that they think is better, but it's still not craft. And it's $17 to $21 a gram.
Yeah.
And now they want the craft market to come in there. Now we're going to have good weed for you from good craft. What the fuck?
How's that working out,
How
guys?
are they going to charge for that?
How many craft
$30
facilities are
a
approved
gram
right now?
Like, who's going to buy that at $30 a gram? Because it's still not better than you're growing or your friend's growing that's in a basement suite somewhere that just knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But, you know.
This was their idea to help people transition to make it work, but it's not working because I know
it was never their idea to help people transition. I'm sorry to tell you.
We're a part of the craft.
You were never part of their plan.
Yeah, I know.
You were never.
I know.
You're in fact, their plan is to eliminate and everybody like you, never to include you into the system, never 100%. To legalize the 700 vendors at 420.
How many LPs are lobbying to make it harder, right? How many people are lining pockets with cash to make it harder?
And who are those LPs?
Yeah,
you look at who's
who
running
are they
that.
truly backed by?
They're previous prohibitionists, they're ex-police chiefs,
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
they're corporate businessmen.
Yeah.
You know, because hell, you can get $1,000 for a pound for a plant that you can just grow like any other plant. Fuck yeah, going for that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
grow acres and acres of that
Right?
shit.
Yeah. How's
Who
that-
wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But that's not right. That's not reasonable.
Yeah.
That's not justified. Oh, that's okay. We got the government in our pocket. It's all their
Yeah.
system. They're gonna pay for all the enforcers to go out and make sure
We're-
nobody else grows in our system.
We're gonna piggyback all off of your guys, all of our backs for fucking setting up the culture we did and try to run it over.
Exactly.
And karma's biting them in the ass, and they're gonna fucking fail. And they need us to fucking make it right. They're gonna come crawl on their fucking knees, the government too, and being like, "How's this system gonna work?" And we're gonna be like, "Okay, we'll show you. Ready to fucking listen now?" Pardon my French,
We
but
wanted
like,
two things basically. We wanted really good weed.
Yeah.
You know, as a culture, we're always looking for that little bit better weed. You know, we want really good weed. We want the really good growers to grow us really good weed and
Yeah.
to make us really good concentrates and to have these products that we want. And the other thing we don't want government wasting our fucking tax dollars to try to stop us from getting good weed or anything else. You know, stop wasting our money. That's the most thing that drove me the most nuts as an activist, was just how much money this was costing our society
Totally.
to have all these police running around and checking to make sure you're not smoking that medical herb, that you're
Yeah.
smoking the legal cigarettes. Fuck that.
even though half their
You know?
family members are using cannabis to heal their
Of course,
ailments.
but just the money is just ludicrous. The ruined lives. You can't even put a dollar figure on
Can't.
how many lives they ruined, and
Yeah.
dragging people into courts and separating families and all the rest of it. It's just insane amount of money down the toilet
Yeah.
with prohibition. And that's what we wanted. We wanted really good weed to be able to have, and we wanted to stop the government from wasting our money. And
Yeah.
instead, they give us legalization, which gives us shitty weed. Mediocre is giving them too good a break for
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah.
It's shitty.
It's shit, yeah.
And it's way over expensive.
Yeah.
And now they're still spending even more money
Yeah.
on prohibition.
Yeah.
So the two things that we really wanted, we didn't get at all out of legalization so far.
No.
And we shouldn't be complacent. We shouldn't accept it. We should spend the time we got sitting at
I-
home with nothing better to do than watch Netflix
And-
take a break from Netflix when you watch an
And
episode of Ozark and
involve
realize that
yourself
your
in
money's being
cannabis
laundered.
shows, get educated, get involved again. This is the time.
That's it.
That LP barricade you're talking about is just another barricade that we got to hurdle through, and we got to make it right. And I'm willing to, join everyone and let's band together. We all know the underground scene, as I was a part of it. It wasn't perfect. We all fucking made mistakes. Shit was fucking haywire at times, but we all had the purpose of pushing craft and medical forward, and we all could agree on that. So why don't we just agree on that again? Get up and let's do this. Now's our time.
Or stay sitting, but
yeah.
write.
Yeah.
Write a letter.
Yeah.
In your own words, from your own heart, from your perspective. Write that letter. Tell your politician how pissed off you are about it, how it should be right, and let's all write our letters.
Yeah.
And let's post them online
100%.
and critique each other's letters
Yeah.
and send them all off and keep sending them off until they get it right, because
So
this
they're
is really important.
They're overwhelmed, and I've heard that the government's been reaching out to a few people I know and saying like, hey, okay, we know we fucked up on the craft side of things, and we want to make it better. How come there's only like however many, like 500 or 50 craft applications when there's 40,000 medical patients and growers, right? Or way more than that, but you know what I mean? Like that transition is supposed to be there where we can grow affordable cannabis and try to work with certain, like going through LP, having to go through an LP and having to go through liquor board. Those are two really flawed parts of it. I think that'll have to change. I think, to keep the price down on the craft side of things, on the recreational side. And I think the co-ops are going to be a huge part on the medical side, what you're talking about. I think that's going to be a massive, where you can have 100,000 members. They all have, their little couple plants. They're all growing. They get their prescription. They get it. It's affordable. It's, everything's kind of floating, right? And then everything's sustainable at that point.
What I see is that the people that I know from the culture that have gone for those kind of licenses or are hoping on getting those licenses or got them, is it's always double-sided.
Yeah.
They're happy that they've got a license so they can get involved and they can do what they do, but they're always unhappy with the regulations that they're going to have to follow, with being a part of that system now that isn't what we've asked for. It's very double-sided for people. It's like I got good news and I got bad news. It looks like we're going to get that license from the government to be part of the system. Yay! Bad news. Looks like we're going to get that license from the government to be part of the system. Ugh.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, both of those things.
It's so true, right? It's ugly, you know, a lot of ways, but you know, I'm just trying to focus on as many of the positive sides as I can and push for what we need to make change, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, because like if we're all in that negative hate place, that just creates a negative vibration and it kind of dulls us down. So if we get to that place, we want free the plant, you know, connect with the cannabis, you know, get our culture revving up again, like, you know, yeah, like
Be hopeful.
Be hopeful. This all comes together. Then hopefully summertime we can go back out in a normal way of life. And imagine the events. Look how many people are going to come together after this. It's going to be record.
You see my shirt, eh?
Cannabis Day.
Cannabis Day. That's my hope now.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to happen because I'm listening to them all talking about when they're going to open this, when they're going to open that. We can have a Cannabis Day. I'm saying that right here, right now in Vancouver, we can have a Cannabis Day. We may have to structure it a little so we're not so tight together or whatever. We'll see where we are July 1st. That's a long ways from now. Our numbers are just about nothing right now. They're 20 less than 30
Everyone
a day.
in BC, keep doing the good job you're doing out there.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I know a lot of people don't believe in the whole social distancing, a lot of people are like, whatever. I think that it shows that we have flattened the curve and, you know, we are keeping it down. And I think that if we keep up this way, we'll be going back to business as usual sooner than later.
We'll be able to get a little closer to each other. We'll
Yeah.
be able to, do, like you say, get back to business. Maybe not the same way we did business before. They are going to make some adjustments in how tight they put people together.
Yeah.
But I think we can have a Cannabis Day the way it looks right now. There would have to be some big wave of infections and deaths, you know, between now and then to stop that from happening now.
Yeah.
We can actually, we've been ahead of this thing with the Cannabis Substitution Project from the beginning. We started masking up and keeping people apart really early on as soon as they started talking about it because we knew we were a vulnerable project and we didn't want to be shut down.
For sure.
So we tried to keep ahead of that. And I think we can do the same thing as a cannabis community if we're going to start to have some of our events back.
Yeah.
But we can do it in responsible ways. And,
For sure.
And so we can look forward to that. I think there is some hope that we can have Cannabis Day.
There is
at least
hope,
here.
and we know cannabis is so good for your immune system and being antiviral too, right? So, you know,
The healing of the nations.
right? So I think
You know?
that, you know, the second wave is whatever, if that even exists or what's going to go on, but us being careful is important. And I think that the second wave of cannabis pushback should be happening, hopefully, you know, and I'm going to help do my part to lead and to be here to answer anyone's questions and to get more involved, you know, kind
I
of.
think cannabinoid therapeutics has a big role to play in our future protections from viruses and other things, and I think we're going to learn that as a result of this. I don't see how it can't. Because of how your endocannabinoid system works, from my layman's understanding of that, cannabis is going to have a role in several different aspects of how we deal with these types of things, both from the psychological with the the lack of stress,
Yep.
or the stress medicine, but more than that too, that there's going to be anti-inflammatory aspects, the expectorant aspect of causing people to expunge what's in their
Exactly,
their
and
bronchia
keeping our
things,
stress
so.
levels low, because when you're stressed out, that's like the biggest opening for viruses and illness to get into you, right? So you're working with cannabis, you're keeping your cannabinoids up, it's a positive experience, you're connecting with a plant, as almost as close as you can to some way, right? And yeah, I think it has a big part. We're going to see...
And the euphoric properties too,
If
of
you-
course. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because, cannabis is not just an anti-inflammatory and analgesic and all those other medical things that it does for us, but it provides, if you're using a strain that has any level of THC to it, provides that euphoria.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling well, if you're trying to deal with inflammation or pain or those types of things, it's good to have a little euphoria to go along with that.
100%.
And it helps to distract. And really, I think, how you feel is all completely related to what you're thinking about and how you're thinking about things, what you're saying to yourself,
Yeah.
and all those sorts of things. So to have that distraction that allows you to keep focused on positive things is a very powerful tool when you need that. Because it's hard to get your mind off of something that's really bothering you.
Yeah.
And to have the ability or a little bit of a tool to help distract you, then you can sit down and watch a Netflix movie and not be so distracted by all the fear or whatever else is debilitating.
100%. That in combination with the pain factor. factor, and like people are using it for all their ailments. So when you're feeling good in your body, your stress levels are down, your euphoria is up, you're generally feeling good, right? So
Exactly. It helps you feel good.
we're not allowed to say as much as we do how much we know cannabis is so healing and but we all know, right? How amazing it is. We all
do, yeah.
experienced it firsthand.
We're about to go to the CSP update shortly here, and I know that there's a video that we're going to play that there's a couple of people in the lineup that were interviewed that speak a little bit about just how much it means to them and how much they understand the power of it. And we all do understand that it's such a elephant in the room always, right? Like, we've been fighting this stupid war against these powers that be that want to keep us from using cannabis.
Yeah.
And so that their tactic is to demonize it, to say, well, this is some horrible drug there. I mean, you read the early accounts of how they described the effects of cannabis.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. So it was so bad that they had to literally use the criminal law against anybody that would even have possession of it.
Right.
Like back in the days of
Surrounded.
alcohol prohibition, you could have alcohol. That wasn't illegal. That was how could the government tell you couldn't have alcohol? They're the public servants.
Yeah.
But it was illegal to produce it and sell it and cross state lines with it. But it would have been unheard of in this free country, America, that the government would tell you couldn't personally have alcohol.
Right.
But with cannabis, it was so deadly, so dangerous. It was causing people to be violent and insane with super strength and to rape and murder.
Oh, man.
And those were the reports that were coming in on it. It was so dangerous that they had to use the criminal law against anybody that would even have possession of it. And it got so serious. I mean, you could go to jail for life for just 3 times getting caught with even a roach. 3 strikes and you're out. Such a deadly, harmful plant is what we were brought up to be being told by that side of establishment. When I was born, that's what my parents told me.
yeah.
That's what the media told me. That's what our government and police told me. And I could go into court in handcuffs and be put into a cage because I would dare to have this dangerous, deadly herb, right?
Yeah.
And the truth, the other side of it is the complete fucking opposite.
Well, that's why, right? That's why they did it like that, because
You're going to tell a lie, right? Tell a big lie.
It's like other people that really hate on other people. They're usually hating on another person because that's something that they're trying to hide from themselves and deter someone. It's the same what the government does with things. They said weed was bad because they're trying to deter people from the actual truth, because they knew, because they're not stupid, that how
right.
amazing and powerful this plant truly is.
That's
and that
true.
is
I
exactly,
believe that 100%.
Right?
They knew what they were prohibiting. They knew why they had to prohibit it and why they had to lie about it the way that they did, because it is so powerfully the opposite.
Raising our consciousness.
Not dumbing us down.
Raising
Raising
our
our
consciousness.
consciousness.
We are not in their grips anymore.
That's right.
Right?
So many powerful positives to this, economically, emotionally, spiritually, all these different sides to it. And yet it was demonized to be of no medical value whatsoever, a Schedule I drug, full force and effect that the American judicial system brought down upon anybody involved in trying to get anybody else access. Wow, eh?
Yeah, I know.
Wow, what a story.
It is,
What a
it is,
story.
and here we are. And to everyone that's out there fighting for our rights and working with cannabis and using cannabis for their elements, using cannabis to feel good, keep doing it.
Keep
Love
doing
you.
it.
And
So, Beard Brothers, you guys are still making concentrates. How do they find you?
yeah, we're Beard Brothers joined with Pasha Brands, which
I
is
see.
like a craft powerhouse
Right.
with a bunch of like-minded individuals. We got together. They haven't gotten to market yet. There's a lot of things happening and structuring happening, but Beard Brothers products are supposed to be legally available soon. But
Jamie Shaw also works for Pasha Brands.
she does, yeah.
She does.
She doesn't anymore.
Oh, is that right? She
No.
was a guest on the show.
She works
early on.
she works with Shelter, I think now.
I see.
Yeah, there's
So
a lot.
and she said the same thing when she was here, that she had signed on with Pasha Brands, that they
Yeah.
hadn't come to market yet, but she was very hopeful that they'd be able to do that in a reasonable way and be
Totally.
something that she'd want to be a
That's
part
what
of.
we all felt, right? And it hasn't happened yet, and a lot of things happen, and it's not easy, right? Overcoming different hurdles, and I think Pasha stands for something great. Basically giving the mom and pops an opportunity to come under one big roof and get craft cannabis to market, right?
Cool. Well, I hope you're successful in that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's where Beer Brothers is. We're not sure on how it's going to go. I mean, hopefully those products are to market. We have our craft play going on right now, which is Heart of the Hive, is our sister company to Beer Brothers. So that's kind of the next phase of our whole group. I mean, basically when Beer Brothers was acquired and stuff, it was just kind of me and the brand and stuff like that. It wasn't the whole entire family I knew. So we're trying to transition a lot of our, keep our medical guys where they want to be and help everyone kind of get into where they want to do in the new system or make it better. I still don't really know how any of that's going to go, but Heart of the Hive is where you can access us. We have an Instagram account.
Cool.
And our website is heartofthehive.ca. You can see what our project's all about. It's basically a sustainable project. It's about building a stronger community and about healing people with not just cannabis, but all the other aspects that go along with it. Because I truly believe that you can't just start using cannabis when you're trying to heal and think that it's going to be the one and only thing. I think that diet and lifestyle and getting to a lot of the other deeper, more traumas inside yourself are important. So Heart of the Hive we're going to have our nonprofit sector to that. That's just going to be basically all addiction, cancer, spiritual, plant medicines, and all that stuff's going to be intertwined. And that's kind of,
Beautiful.
Our exciting thing. We've been working at it for a year and seeing how the transition is going to happen with that. So, obviously we're still doing our medical fight. There is products that are quality that I know that are out there that are, being produced, but not necessarily the Beer Bros tag, but it will happen soon.
So you got your fingers in a lot of different pies there.
Yeah, sometimes I think I got them in too many,
I mean, we're gonna have to talk because, stronger together for sure.
Yeah.
And the Serious Hope Society, which is now the society that we've formed to house the Cannabis Substitution Project, has very similar goals to what you're talking about there. So, we're going to be talking down the future.
Synchronicity, right?
We're going to be, as a society, entering into partnerships with other like-minded groups for sure.
100%.
And I think that there's some potential there for us
Me
down
too.
the road.
I think there's potential for us all. So if anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me. We're just trying to make a difference each and every day right now.
So I know you basically from the events.
Yeah.
I've seen you at so many different cannabis events. How many events have you won? Just you have an off the top of your head?
It's not something that I like talking about.
No?
Whatever. It's just some, we won
All
some
right.
awards, but
You won some awards.
I'm not the type of guy. Be like, yeah, we won.
All right.
We got out. We got involved with any kind of event and competition. So we could show our wares because we always wanted to make sure our patients knew. And people knew that they're getting quality. So when we were entering, we were just entering the typical run-of-the-mill stuff that we had in process. We'd select a few things, but a lot of the time it was what we had, right? So
you've done very well.
I think we won over 100 cups.
Wow.
I think Canada-wide, and that's strictly in Canada.
That's incredible.
You
You might be top of the list on that, or one of the top of the list on that.
I would say
for
we're
sure.
pretty top of the list. And I think that Kind Selections and Thompson Caribou and those guys aren't far behind, or not maybe in the lead. It was never about who was winning more for me.
Well, no, my point was more that you've won a lot.
Yeah,
That's
for
all.
sure. Well,
because I've been involved with a lot of those different competitions, and you've always been right there at the forefront, and if you're not winning them, right there, and I
appreciate that, man, and we put
awesome.
we put a lot of heart and soul into it. Like I was saying,
And I do too, because as I introduced you, this is really the cutting edge of medicine. It really is. I mean, we're maybe a bunch of stoner hippies or whatever, but we're far more than that. We're people that care, and when you really care about getting better and better weed, because that's kind of what it is. So like I said, what we want is better weed. We always want a little bit better weed.
Yeah.
And when guys like you wrap your brain around how to get it a little bit better and a little bit better, and what it is something that's really helping people with their medical conditions, you're really at the cutting edge, the leading edge of this new horizon, this new field of medicine. Cannabinoid therapeutics is the future.
It is
for sure.
It is the future,
Absolutely.
and that's why I'm where I am right now, and why I'm proud to be on your show and here and be able to talk to the community. I haven't been on a camera in a while, so it's been fun. I'm just stoked to kind of see where all this goes.
Well, very happy to have had you here as well. Very happy to have gotten to know you over the years. All the best with your endeavors in the future. We look forward to checking in with you a little while down the road and seeing how it's going.
Yeah, man. I'd give you a big old hug, but
virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs, right?
Virtual hugs are all right.
Virtual hugs to everyone else out there. Miss you all. We'll see you soon. Love, peace,
Very
respect.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
We're gonna get you out of here as quick as we can. Keep proper distancing between you. The most important thing, of course, is always be kind to each other. Have as much fun as you can.
Hello? Do you have pineapple? Pineapple I have.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
So you're in our cannabis substitution lineup for our high-powered edibles?
Yep. Been here since 9:30.
Wow, that's pretty early. So how does the cannabis edibles help you out?
Well, it slows down with my migraines and my ADHD. And I spend a lot of time just using that rather than using hard drugs. And I try occupying my time with like the sale and the exchange rather than doing hard drugs and hurting my body and being able to toxify in that and losing my mind. I can educate myself, I can reiterate myself, slow myself down, and it does a lot better for the human body than any other of the hard drugs. They work.
Don't eat too much, right? I'm giving you a double bag today.
Oh, thank you very much.
Don't eat too much of it all at once.
No, I'll be back.
And what brings you to our cannabis substitution lineup?
A friend of mine told me about it, and I wanted to come try it out. I tried out some of your gummy bears before, and they help me sleep while I'm doing my self-medicating, I guess, what do you want to call it? Self-isolating, right? Help me pass time, so it's great. It's a great service that you guys are providing for the community.
We're here to do that. We're here to do that. Here you go, Derek.
Back up, get in line. Back. Being an opiate user medically through my doctor for 18 years, cut off my medication. I've been looking around. Now I've been self-medicating with the gummy bears here, which seem to help me immensely.
Have a great day.
Have a great one. And what brings you to cannabis substitution lineup?
I learned about this, the Cannabis Substitution Project a couple of years ago, and I have so much respect for it because really I know in my heart that this program does save lives. Because, we get it, not only it improves our health because of the CBDs, but even a little bit of THC is better, it's much safer than some of the other alternatives that are out there that are killing everybody.
Especially down here.
Exactly. So I have two choices. I can go buy illicit drugs from, I don't want to mention the country in particular, it's roll the dice with my life. Do I live or do I die to escape reality this day? Or I can come here and enjoy something peaceful and safe that isn't going to kill me. And that's why I really respect Neil and this program so much. And I don't come very often, but I just, from the bottom of my heart, I have so much respect for this program that I don't really know what else to add at this point, but I'm happy to be here.
I want to thank Debbie Hellion for the video there. She does such a great job of interviewing people and finding those things out. Yeah, it's powerful for those that are in serious need of cannabis to be able to get it like that. These are very tough times for a lot of people. It's tough emotionally for people, especially that are fragile to begin with down on the downtown east side. And so that our project being able to continue there with the blessings of the Coastal Health Department is a very good thing and a very valuable thing. I can't thank our volunteers enough for continuing to step up and do what's necessary to make the project work. As you could see by the video, there were wearing masks and kind of keep people apart, and we were out there on the sidewalk handing out as soon as we've got some bags together, we try to allow the people that have been there since the earliest part of the day to get out of there and get home and try to subdue or reduce the lineup that way. I can't thank the donators enough because everything we do is by donation and all of it's done by volunteers. And so that's very powerful. And those people that are donating are angels that are helping in very, very profound ways. They're not there at the front lines to see what we see. And what I mean by that is that they don't really get the benefit of seeing face to face the people that are getting those care packs and to hear what they have to say about how thankful and appreciative that they are and how the many different ways that what we're giving them helps them. It really is extremely moving to be able to get to know the people that are lining up there, and to know that that we are really helping them in profound ways. So the people that are donating are very special people, and their efforts and their donations, and your donations if you're a donator, are very much appreciated by a large number of people who really do need help. And the people that are there, I can't emphasize enough, having been working down on the downtown east side, I've had a relationship with Van Du for about 15 or more years now. And, we ran the herb school just a block down the other way for 3.5 years. The herb school was there. I was there for almost 2 years of it, and it really did get to understand the community, the needs of the community, and the dynamics of the people there and how they got to be there and all those things. You hear stories that'll curl the hair on the back of your neck. And, I can say as someone who's been right there in the trenches for a long time, that when I say these people, I don't really like that phrase. It sounds a bit weird. But the people that I'm talking about are all of our brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts, and they're all of they're somebody's family member, and they're just ordinary people that come from all sorts of different walks of life, and most of them didn't do anything particularly wrong. They just had life and circumstance happen to them. The ones that struggle the most down there, probably with substance misuse and other things, are really people that were traumatized as children and have had a really hard time in their life unwinding that. When people are traumatized in their youth and as children, they grow up into adults that don't function very well in a lot of different ways many times. And so that they don't do well in relationships, and they don't do well in the workplace. And so they spiral into poverty and isolation, and end up seeking out ways of coping, which in many cases involves alcohol or pharmaceutical drugs or other substances or destructive behaviors. And they all end up in poverty down on the downtown east side, because that's where you go when that's where you are in your life, because there's services down there and there's other people down there that are of similar circumstance, and they can relate to you. And so in reality, we're talking about the abused children of our society, not rebellious people that made bad choices and decided not to work and earn a living and look after themselves because they were lazy and things like that, but not that at all. When you really come to understand the majority of the people that we're talking about, they're good people that just didn't know how to cope properly. They didn't come out of their youth with the proper strategies and skills, or life knocked them down in some other ways. In some cases, they were adults that suffered traumatic injuries that put them on a course of opioids, and then because of our healthcare system, ended up with them searching for more relief through drug dealers on the downtown east side and things like that. So the stigmatization that occurs because that's who prohibitionists want to blame for drug prohibition, and that's who self-righteous people want to blame, because, you just can't, you just didn't make good choices, so you deserve what you get, sort of thing. And, we're better off without them, and all those other stigmatizations that happen to these people. If you get to know them, they're mostly undeserved. And really what is deserved is that our society should treat them all with great compassion and respect and help them. And a measure of a society is how well you look after the weakest. And those people that have been traumatized as children or trying to figure it out as adults are the weakest and the ones that need our help the most. So I'm glad that you're along with me for this this journey of understanding and seeking the truth on things. And because you're along with me on this journey, and so many other people are, we certainly do have some hope that we can change things. And the efforts of those people that are involved with the Cannabis Substitution Project, with the High Hopes Foundation, and so many other organizations that are just there to help people, those organizations really deserve a lot of credit, and I can't thank the people that help us with our project enough. And I just want everybody to understand how appreciative we all are and how valuable it is. So thank you all. If you want to help us with our project, we could use some more donations with respect to herb and trim and shake and that sort of things. Our bakers turn that into baked goods and gummies and things. And otherwise, just stay calm, stay lifted. Do what you can to make the world a better place, and while you're doing that, have as much fun as you can.
Hi there, welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sick Moose video.
Oh yes, Sick Moose video. Let's play the Sick Moose video.
That's like all over the place, I guess.
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he describes.
Oh, I'm rolling up the fattest joint I could possibly fit in this paper. If it was any bigger, it would explode.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you. And still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good?
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And fun.